you're not going to take action unless you're inspired and motivated, and you believe that you can achieve it.
Welcome back to episode 8 of How to Invest in Commercial Real Estate. My name is Braden with the Criterion Fund, and I'm joined by Brian Duck and Joel Thompson. Thanks for coming back, guys. What is up?
What's up?
Hey, what's up?
Today, I just wanted to dive in a little deeper, a little more emotional about, discovering your why, staying motivated, staying deep-rooted in the game, and just being purposeful about what you're doing.
No, that's good. I'm happy to actually share some of my why and what I went through in getting on my journey of commercial real estate. And so maybe someone can relate to this that's listening. But, when I first came across commercial real estate as the vehicle, I'd been working about a year. I was real energetic. I was competitive and, was doing all this stuff in college. And then I get my 9-to-5 job, and every single day at a company here in town, I would go and I would sit behind that desk for 9 hours a day. And I just remember my wife, Beck, and I were engaged. And I just remember thinking, this can't be the 40 years. This can't be the next 40 years. Now, obviously, I didn't quit that day job and it got better. But I was super discouraged, having gone from so much activity and freedom to, a desk job for 9 hours a day. And I was discouraged that, some of my friends were going on to med school. They were going to be making all this money. Attorneys going to be making this money. And at the time, I just didn't see the path as an engineer. My first raise, I think, really shocked me. I think my first raise, I worked all year and it was like 1.2% or something.
Oh my gosh.
And so I started doing the math on that, and I'm like, I'm not going to ever get ahead of inflation.
Yeah, you're going backwards at that point.
I had a couple of uncles that were successful, and the difference between them and others is they own their own businesses. So my brother and I always used to talk about, we got to find a way to start a business. That's how to get more money, which is true. But man, I didn't know how to start a business. I didn't know even what business I would start, and it just seemed so far off. And so for me, the why was finding a way to take back that 40 years, to give myself more control over my future, more time freedom, more financial freedom. And so that was the driver for me. And luckily, around that time, I got a hold of some Rich Dad Poor Dad information, Robert Kiyosaki. And because I had that why just driving me looking for something, when that came along, I was so motivated because now I had an avenue to accomplish the why. I didn't have an avenue before that. I had a why and I had these dreams, but I didn't have a vehicle to get there. And real estate, for me, I was inspired just listening to him talk differently than anyone that I had ever heard before. And he talked about financial freedom. He talked about retiring early. He talked about, making passive income. I had never even heard that term before, that, you can make money on the side. Things can be making money for you even when I'm at my day job. So I kind of opened it up for you guys. That was the start of discovering both my why and how I was going to accomplish that.
Yeah, I think one big thing that you said there for me was you couldn't see the path, and then you didn't have the vehicle, and you just didn't know how to get where you wanted. It seemed like you wanted something bigger. Maybe you wanted more freedom, you wanted more flexibility, whatever you wanted, but you didn't know the avenue to get there. And I think that's one of the main reasons we're starting the show, is because the three of us were so deep rooted. And I don't want to speak for Brian. I'll give you a chance to go through yours, but the three of us, generally speaking, I think we're deep rooted in knowledge and trying to figure out that path to go from where we were to where we wanted to go. And for me, it was just education and not like college. I didn't go to college. I didn't go get some degree, but it was just finding things that I was interested in and finding mentors in them that were motivating and inspiring and got me juiced up and said things I didn't know about the topic I was interested in, and finding, a self-help book. I read a lot of self-help books. I don't read, fiction or nonfiction or a lot of biographies, but self-help books really get me going because it's all of the biggest problems in that person's life and how they overcome them. And being able to identify that you have somewhere to go, but just break it down. Being able to put a quantifiable plan, a measurable path, and saying, well, here's what these guys are doing to get to that path. I need to do some of these things. I need to write these down. I need to be more intentional about reading, or I need to watch less Netflix, or I need to go to bed earlier so I can wake up earlier so I can dominate the day better, or just staying rooted in your goal.
Yeah. I think what people would find, a lot of people have those same desires. I think I had the same desires, like Joel was saying, retire early, make more money, the 1.2%, or I don't care if you get a raise of in my industry, engineering, it was, maybe it was 4 or 5%. But I looked at that and I thought, that's not going to change my life. I'm going to be, for the next 40 years, I'm going to be at this income level basically. And I need to make a jump. I need to make a drastic jump in my income level. And I didn't see it for a long time. Frankly, I didn't see it until Joel introduced me to commercial real estate 10 years ago. The other thing, like you were saying, I think people, they have these desires, but they just don't know what to do, and they end up really not doing much about it. And like you said, they watch Netflix instead. But I think if they would start somewhere, whether it's reading books, listening to podcasts, and they start to get motivated, I think they'll find that they get really interested in it. And after a while, if they're motivated enough, they'll spend all their spare time doing those things.
No, it's a good point. I want to just comment on that, because how many people read Rich Dad Poor Dad? Or millions of people. In fact, I was told about that book from a friend of mine, and but most people, they don't have a big enough why, and they're not spending enough time being inspired by mentors and self-help. And so they don't take the action. It's just a piece of information for them. But for me, having focused on that why and being determined to change, and then having that come along, but that even wasn't enough, because like Braden said, you have to then go after the knowledge and read the self-help books. And self-help has a kind of a negative connotation, but no, being daily inspired by successful people, that gives you the motivation, and you're not going to take action unless you're inspired and motivated, and you believe that you can achieve it. And that's what the mentors do, and that's what the self-help books do, and the CDs and things that you listen to. I used to be so excited to get in my car around this time, because man, I felt myself changing driving around in that car. I was being motivated before work. I was being motivated at lunch.
Were you listening to audiobooks?
Audiobooks,
okay.
Yeah.
Audiobooks in the car.
Well, yeah, it was, I even had some audio cassettes.
Okay.
Way back then, they had some cassettes, but also CDs. They weren't podcasts at the time. But I want to encourage people listening that take time to don't listen to the radio. Turn your car into a learning facility, a university of sorts, because you'd be amazed how much driving you actually do, and what that also would get my mind turning as I'm driving. I'm getting inspired.
Gets you thinking. Gets Yeah. I mean, how often do you drive to the grocery store and then just kind of like wake up? You just kind of like come to, and then you're like, wow, I've been driving for the past 7 miles. I have no recollection of anything. You just completely zone out. You go into autopilot. I moved. I drove to the wrong house several times. I mean, you guys ever just completely drive to the wrong spot? Your autopilot takes over. Your brain is literally going to sleep. It's doing the same stupid thing, and it's not being entertained. You're not challenging it. It's literally putting itself to sleep and going on autopilot. Or you could be thinking about something. You could be listening to an audiobook or a podcast, or trying to solve some problem, or thinking about the day tomorrow, or how you're going to dominate next week, or how you can accomplish that first big goal on your list. That needs to be constantly at the forefront of your mind. And I think for me anyway, it was reading was inspiring, but it also practically helped. It practically helped solve problems I had. You know, I wouldn't find a problem. I would come across problems. I would come across topics, and I would be interested in them. Real estate was one. I went and got my real estate license. I didn't know enough about real estate. Real estate's big. You don't need a real estate license to do deals. I mean, most of the real estate license is how to sell a house. There's practically nothing on a real estate license about commercial deals, but it's just the fact that I was so interested in it. I needed to go get that license. I needed to study in it.
Yeah. One of the mentors I've plugged before, but Robert Allen, when I was reading, he made the comment, whatever you focus on expands. And so I want to kind of give an example. I was an engineer by trade, not necessarily a good engineer, but I worked with people, and they spent a lot of time thinking about how to be a good engineer. That was what they thought about, their thinking. And so, you know, your mind's going to work on solving that problem, how to be a good engineer, how to be a good engineer. Well, by listening to mentors and educating myself on real estate and money, you know, I want to tell everybody out there, you're not working to be necessarily good at your job. You're there because it's earning you a paycheck. And so for me, I always thought, well, I'm working for money because money gives me what I want out of life, either time or you know, things or whatever. So I'm working for money. I want to be an expert in making money.
Yeah.
And so I'm reading books about money, about returns, about businesses, because being an engineer, a good engineer, I was fine at it. Okay, I made a living, but man, your mind is going to work on something. And so what you have to do in order to become, you know, a millionaire, maybe, let's say, or a big business owner, is you've got to change your thinking. And so you have to change what you think about. You change your ideas, and only then you can change. And so for me, that was what the mentors did, is they got me thinking about, how do I approach money? How do I approach investing? How do I approach saving and risk? And looking for deals, because I didn't even know what were out there. And so my mind kept going on those. And I want to encourage everybody that part of this podcast is figuring out your why and then getting yourself motivated to take action on that.
Yeah, I agree with that. What you said is exactly what happened to me. For a long time in my career, I wasn't thinking about these things. I did my job, and I thought that's what I'm going to need to do. And I still remember a moment when I decided, and I want to do something different. I remember the event. I won't go into it, but I remember the event, and then I started becoming open to opportunities, and all of a sudden opportunities were coming around all the time.
Wow.
It was a complete different mindset. If I'd had that mindset before, I think those opportunities were there. I know they were. I just wasn't thinking about turning situations into opportunities. And the moment that I decided I was going to do something different, I didn't have an opportunity right away, but they started becoming apparent really quickly. And it's because it was a mindset. It wasn't a situation difference at all. It was just a mindset that I wanted to do something different.
It reminds me of this book I read by Malcolm Gladwell, and now I can't think of the name of it. That's
okay.
Anyway, this book, it talks about the rule of 10,000 hours and how if you want to be a professional on something, like a professional basketball player, football player, violinist, hockey player, whatever, they use a lot of examples. But if you want to be a professional at it, you've got to do it for 10,000 hours.
I've heard that, yeah.
So it immediately got me thinking, oh, well, I've just got to do it more than the other guy. I've got to read more books. I've got to look at more deals, and, you know, trying to bring it back to real estate a touch. But that was what I was focused on. So I was just thinking, man, if I underwrite more deals, if I offer on more deals, if I read more books on how to structure deals and give better returns and how to manipulate, you know, the net operating income and all of these things, if I can do it more than other people, there's no doubt that I'll learn it faster, because by doing it more, you're going to be better at it than other people.
Yeah, that applies to people's day jobs. I don't want to take a knock on the day job. I had that day job for 15, 16 years. Okay. And I worked hard to be successful at that. And I know people are working hard at their job trying to be successful. This concept can work for them. You know, anybody that spends time reading in their field, hours and hours a day or a week, they're going to become an expert, and that will help their earning power in that field. And I don't want to discourage anyone from doing that. Some people have jobs they absolutely love, And you can do both. If you want to read in your industry and work hard to become an expert at your job and grow your income that way and be successful there, and then also spend time on a side hustle or passive income, I don't want to discourage the day job thing. We're just trying to inspire people that they can have exactly what they want out of life, not instantly, but over time they can move toward the goals they want. And if it's something different than they're doing during the day, like it was for me, that's what we're here to motivate them to do.
Yeah, and let's just take an example from a job. You know what I mean? If you don't want that 1.5% raise, you want something more, take on more responsibility. Go home and get some new certification for your job. Spend more time on it. Research. Show up early. Stay later. Ask what you can do to help. Take on more responsibility for the same amount of pay. Do the job you want to get paid for before you get paid for it. Mm-hmm. That was I think Vic told me that. And it was just this sense of you've got to have the mentality of what you want to do before you get the opportunity to do it.
That's right. That's a good point.
Well, I love that because I was in the corporate world for 40 years, and when I saw people doing that, those are the people that worked for me that I paid attention to.
You invested back in them.
Yeah, exactly. And the people that said, "Oh, that's not my job," those are the people that went to the bottom of the list.
Another mentor of mine, Brian Tracy, who's fantastic, by the way. His stuff is a little older. But he talked about, being a rabid dog. You would go to your manager, give me more, and you'd go and you finish that and you come back, give me more. I want more. And he also talked about going the extra mile. And he said the great thing about the extra mile is there's no traffic jams.
Yeah.
And just think about that for a minute. Go the extra mile, because on the extra mile, there's no traffic jams.
That's for sure.
There's nobody there. You're going to be the guy or the girl. Going the regular mile is jam-packed full of average people. Yeah. So anyway, that was cool. It stuck out to me.
Yeah, that's good.
One recent thing that stuck out to me, and then maybe we can wrap it up. I follow a guy named Jesse Itzler, and he's really big on building your life resume. And he was doing this thing where it was a 100-mile relay race. So it was 3 or 4 guys, and somebody had to be running at all times, and you had to do 100 miles in 24 hours. It was nuts. David Goggins was there. It was this race. Well, anyway, he paid this guy to come and live with him. He was super wealthy, so money wasn't an issue. He paid this guy to come and live with him, and his only job was to ride a bike with him when he wanted to go run. Hey, it's 2 a.m. I need to go knock out 5 miles. You're riding a bike with me to come run. And he said something that was so powerful, and it was right along those lines about no traffic on the last mile. And he said, dude, it's 3 a.m., it's 30 degrees. He said half the world is asleep right now. He said nobody's out here running and putting the work in like we are. And it's that sense of just, when everyone else is, doing nothing or watching Netflix or, taking too much time off or not focusing on their goals and not paying attention or not being that rabid dog at their job, asking their manager for more work. Somebody else is going to step up and do that.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Yep. Well, I think that's awesome. We just need to keep ourselves educated, keep ourselves motivated, keep ourselves networked in, and I think all of that helps.
Yeah, hopefully it was a little inspiring to listen to that.
Well, make sure to check us out on the web. It is howtoinvestincre.com. We are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we will be back in a few more days.
All right, thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming.